Discover the touching moment. 7-year-old girl begs a stranger for food, exposing incredible compassion in a tight-knit community. The sun glared brightly on that fateful afternoon in suburban Ohio, casting shadows of laughter and play over the local park. But for Sarah, a hardworking single mother, dread wrapped around her heart like a vice. Just last week, she had lost her job at the diner after an unexpected closure. Twilight memories of pouring coffee and serving plates lingered, sharp against the reality of empty cabinets at home. Yet, Lily, her spirited 7-year-old daughter, danced around the park oblivious to their struggle, her laughter like a melody that tried to chase away the dark clouds hovering over their lives. With delicate hands, Lily picked dandelions and twirled them in the air, dreamily imagining them as fairy wands. "Mommy, look!" she giggled, her innocence spilling over like the flowers in her tiny hands. But as Sarah watched, her stomach tightened, the echo of hunger resonating deeply within them. They had scraped through days with what little food they had, and now was a different story. "Can we have ice cream?" Lily's wide eyes sparkled with hope. Sarah's heart sank. She wanted to say yes, to share a moment of joy with her daughter, but her lips quivered in silence. The weight of worry kept her from answering. She forced a smile, her heart breaking behind it in that moment. Tom, a friendly stranger with kind eyes and a gentle demeanor, noticed the small mother-daughter duo. He had once faced struggles of his own and knew the desperation that lurked beneath joyful facades. Lily, uninhibited by societal norms, approached him, her face beaming with childish charm. "Excuse me, mister. Do you have food? My mommy and I are really hungry." Tom's heart flipped. It was a simple request, yet it exposed an intricate tapestry of emotions that tugged at everyone nearby. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some averted their eyes, while others frowned at the unwelcome reminder of hardship. But in this moment, all Tom felt was a wave of compassion wash over him. He knelt down, looked into Lily's eyes, and without hesitation, offered her a grilled cheese sandwich he'd brought along as if it would fill not only their bellies but ignite change in the community around them. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Word spread like wildfire through the neighborhood. Whispers turned to conversations about food insecurity and economic struggle, a topic often swept under the rug. The once blissful innocence of Lily's request now laid bare the fragile state of their community. It was heartwarming, yet uncomfortable. Sarah sensed a brewing storm, filled with the mixed feelings of compassion and skepticism. At the community center, residents gathered to address their anxieties and misconceptions. Tensions ignited, with some sharing experiences that resonated and others pressing back with prejudices biting like scorpions. Sarah and Lily stood amidst the fray, fear and hope intertwining within them, wondering if they'd be accepted or judged. With each raised voice and shaky question, the essence of neighborly love and community was tested. Would they find healing in their shared humanity, or sink deeper into division? The room echoed with unresolved emotions, leaving Sarah's heart racing as the poignant moment trembled on the edge of clarity, reminding them that understanding often blooms in unlikely places. What would happen when the dust settled? Only time would reveal the truth of their fragile lives, shifting in the winds of change. The atmosphere in the community center was thick with tension, a palpable mixture of worry and hope. Sarah felt every heartbeat echo within her chest. She glanced at Lily, who was still blissfully unaware of the storm brewing around them. The sight of her daughter twirling in the corner, clutching her dandelion bouquet, was a fleeting reminder of innocence. Sarah swallowed hard, forcing down the wave of anxiety that threatened to drown her. Across the room, a man stood up, voice quaking. "I used to have a good job. We were fine until the factory shut down. Now he faltered, eyes glossing over. I can't feed my kids. His admission hung in the air, heavy and tender. People shifted uncomfortably, some nodding knowingly, others wiping away tears. The room was filled with shared burdens, the weight of unsaid frustrations. A woman's voice broke through the murmur. But we can't just give handouts. People need to earn their keep. Her snide remark sparked a wave of indignation. Gasps filled the air like echoes. What about dignity? Someone retorted, anger intertwining with desperation. Sarah's heart raced. The divisions were stark and painful. She wanted to speak up, to find words that would resonate amidst the discontent, but doubt anchored her. If she revealed her own struggles, would she be met with sympathy or scorn? Lily came up to her, pulling Sarah's skirt gently. Mommy, why are they all yelling? Breathing deeply, Sarah knelt beside her daughter, feeling warmth wash over her. They're just talking about how hard things can be sometimes, sweet pea. Tom stepped forward, drawing attention. What if we all shared our stories? He offered, his voice calm, like a safe harbor. We all struggle. Let us meet with kindness instead of anger. He looked directly at Sarah, inviting her into the circle as if she were part of something larger. Taking a deep breath, emboldened by his courage, Sarah stood. Her palms were clammy, and she could feel the eyes of the room on her. I lost my job last week, she started, heart pounding. And it's been tough for us. But all I want is to keep my daughter safe and happy. Silence enveloped the community, as if they were holding their collective breath. At that moment, a soft voice piped up from the back. I'm so sorry, I didn't know. A young mother, tears streaming down her cheeks, rose to join Sarah. I've been worried about feeding my kids too. What can we do? With each voice that joined the conversation, a flicker of connection ignited in the room. They began sharing stories of struggle, moments of resilience, and even small victories. Walls crumbled, replaced by a growing understanding and empathy. As the gathering continued, Sarah found herself enveloped by the warmth of shared humanity, a feeling she had longed for since losing her job. She smiled at Lily, who had taken it upon herself to hand out dandelions, brightening the atmosphere. Maybe, just maybe, there was a bridge that could be built, one conversation at a time. However, just as a sense of unity began to form, a voice broke through the moment. That's all well and good, but we need real solutions. What are we going to do about the food pantry? Questions lingered like wisps of smoke, demanding answers. As the community surged with uncertainty once more, Sarah's heart sank. They couldn't just talk. They needed action. What would it take to turn this moment of connection into something tangible? And in that precarious balance between hope and fear, she wondered if this was just the beginning of something far greater than she ever imagined. Would they rise together or falter apart? The weight of the question hung in the air, heavy and daunting. Sarah felt the room shift around her, murmurs rippling through the crowd. Worry creased the brows of the parents and caregivers. They were terrified, unsure of how to move beyond words and into action. Sarah's heart raced. Could they really come together to find solutions? Tom cleared his throat again. What if we form a committee? He suggested. We could organize a community food drive. Partner with local businesses, reach out to churches. His voice was steady, but Sarah could hear the uncertainty beneath his words. Do we even have the resources? Someone replied, skepticism in their tone. Everything is so tight right now, folks are just trying to survive. Exactly. A man shouted back, his voice rising. But if each of us contributes something, time, food, ideas, we might just make it work. Every little bit counts. Sarah felt an ember of hope ignite amidst the tension. I can help with logistics, she called out, feeling a surge of courage. I could contact some local stores and see if they can donate food. Lily, still twirling with her dandelions, looked at her mom, eyes wide. Mommy, you're going to help? she asked innocently. Sarah knelt down to meet her daughter's gaze. Yes, honey. We're going to help others, just like us. The effect of her words rippled through the crowd. Others nodded, emboldened by her willingness to act. One by one, they began to form ideas. A woman offered her backyard as a space for a community garden. Another suggested setting up a meal-sharing program. Voices rose, overlapping, and for a moment, the room felt alive, filled with a shared purpose. Then, just as everyone began to brainstorm, the door swung open abruptly. A stranger stepped into the room, eyes quickly scanning the gathering. His clothes were worn and dirty, hair unkempt. He hesitated for a moment before taking a deep breath and stepping forward. "Excuse me," he said, voice shaking. I heard there was a meeting. I don't want to interrupt, but I'm hungry." I was hoping. Gasps filled the room. Sarah's heart sank, sickened by the sight of desperation in this man's eyes. "Please," he continued, looking around at the crowd, "I lost my job too. I just need something to eat." Sarah felt a knot form in her stomach. Here they were, gathered to discuss solutions, and somehow, right before them, an embodiment of their fears stood waiting. Lily, with her innocent spirit, tugged at Sarah's sleeve. "Mommy, can we help him?" This was the moment. This was the kind of action they had all been talking about. But would their plans be enough? Sarah stood, fire in her belly. "Let us start with him," she said, her voice strong. "If we want to help our community, we have to begin right here. Let us make sure he has food today." The feelings in the room shifted yet again. Faces transformed from uncertain worry to resolve. As they rallied together, a flood of emotion washed over Sarah. Would this spark be enough to propel them into the kind of change they needed? Could they be the light for one another? And would this man's plea catalyze a journey that would bind them all together? As they moved toward the stranger, Sarah felt both a wave of fear and a thrill of hope. They were on the edge of something monumental. But deep down, she wondered, could they maintain this unity when faced with the challenges ahead? Sarah stepped forward instinctively, her eyes locked on the man's worn face. She could feel the collective breath of the room held tight. It was as if time paused just for them. Lily, close by, looked on with wide eyes, her small hand squeezed Sarah's tight, anchoring her in this moment of urgency. "Is there a place nearby where you could eat?" Sarah asked, her voice steady, though her heart raced. She felt the weight of the moment pressing down on her. Here was a man standing before them, not as a stranger anymore, but as a reflection of every single struggle they all faced. The man's eyes flickered with a hint of vulnerability. "Just a sandwich would help." "A place to rest," he murmured, almost as if he were unsure if it was too much to ask. Tom stepped forward tentatively, his brow furrowed in determination. "What do we have on hand?" he called out. "Does anyone have snacks, some extra food? Anything?" Hands began to rise around the room, offering an array of items: half-eaten granola bars, bread from lunches packed that morning, and even a leftover pizza from last night's dinner. The small gestures began to add up, and hope swirled in the air like magic. Another woman, nearby, stepped up with a bottle of water. "I can get you something just a minute away. I have a few sandwiches I can bring back," she shouted, her voice ringing with sudden zeal. As excitement buzzed across the room, Sarah understood this wasn't just about food anymore, it was about community. They were becoming more than neighbors, they were becoming advocates. Together, they were crafting a lifeline. The man's weary eyes filled with gratitude, and Sarah felt her spirit lift. He looked at Lily, who still clutched her dandelions. "Thank you, little girl," he said softly, bending down so they were eye to eye. "What's your name?" "Lily," she exclaimed with a bright smile, her innocence shining like a beacon. "You're gonna be okay." It was simple words, but they struck a deep chord. The man smiled faintly, and to Sarah, it looked like hope was beginning to light within him. With everyone now involved, the momentum grew. Within minutes, a plan took shape. They determined what they could gather and who would bring what. It felt electric. Sarah smiled, buoyed by the energy whipping through the room, but as the gathering flowed, a gnawing worry tugged at Sarah's heart. Was this just a temporary fix? Would they really be able to tackle the greater issue of hunger and unemployment that loomed like a dark cloud over their community? Yet as she watched Lily giggle while helping to arrange the food, a whisper of certainty washed over her. They could start with this one act. It was a tiny spark that could ignite something larger, something lasting. As Tom organized the collection effort, Sarah's gaze fell back on the man. His eyes were brighter now, filled with a flickering hope that mirrored the embers she felt inside. "Can you tell us your name?" Sarah asked gently. He hesitated but nodded, looking around at the growing crowd offering support. "My name is Mark," he finally said, voice steadier now. A cheer erupted from the group, and Mark stood a little taller, but would Mark feel comfortable enough to join them? Could he trust this fleeting kindness would lead to something more meaningful? Sarah noticed a shift as she moved to stand beside him, shoulder to shoulder. "Together, Mark, we can do more," she replied softly, full of conviction. But as they shared that moment of connection, Sarah felt a pang of uncertainty. What if support waned once the immediate needs were met? What if this was all just a fleeting moment of hope, destined to disappear when the next hardship loomed? As the plan solidified and the food pile grew, Sarah looked at Mark and then back at her fellow community members. She knew the real work was only just beginning. In that pivotal instant, she made a vow: they wouldn't let this be the end. They would stay connected, and they would fight for each other. The question remained, however, could they really turn this first act of kindness into a movement that would last? "Let us get to work," Tom exclaimed, breaking the sweet tension that had filled the room. The excitement carried over like a wave, the energy palpable as people rallied together, sharing laughter and purpose. Sarah saw smiles break across faces that had once been clouded with uncertainty. Mark watched, his eyes shining, as Lily dashed between the food piles, gathering items with remarkable enthusiasm. It was as if this little girl was a tiny whirlwind, scattering hope wherever she went. Her laughter bounced off the walls, lightening everyone's heart. "Do you like peanut butter and jelly?" Lily shouted as she handed a sandwich to Mark, her small arms outstretched proudly. Mark chuckled softly, his hands trembling as he accepted the offering. "I do, actually," he replied, a genuine smile breaking through. "It's been a long time since I had one." "You'll feel so much better after," she grinned, her confidence radiant. Sarah watched this small gesture unfold, tears forming in her eyes. The unity in the room wasn't just tangible, it was transformative. As the collection grew, Sarah felt a spark igniting. She turned back to Mark, who was taking a seat at a nearby table, still delicately holding the sandwich. "How did you end up here?" she asked, curious about the journey that brought him to their doorstep. He hesitated again, a shadow flickering across his features. "Life can take unexpected turns," he started, voice low. "Sometimes it just gets overwhelming." His words hung in the air, heavy with experience. A few in the crowd looked down, hearts aching with the reality of struggle that weighed on so many. But Sarah noticed how Mark's gaze flickered back to Lily, who was busy trying to stack cans of soup. A sense of warmth washed over him. "It's hard to believe kindness like this still exists," he admitted, a tremble in his voice. Tom, overhearing, piped up. "This is only the beginning, Mark. We're going to do more than just today. We can make this a regular thing." His voice was buoyant and filled with determination, encouraging everyone around him. The group agreed, echoing ideas. They discussed creating a community pantry, a weekly meal program, or even support workshops. Every small voice was suddenly amplified. Sarah felt a stirring inside her, an urge to lead the charge. "We can be a beacon in this neighborhood," she asserted. "This is a start. We need to make it a priority. There's so much more we can do together." The excitement revived a spark in Mark too, as he straightened in his chair. "I'd like to help. If you'll have me," he observed earnestly, hope pooling in his eyes once more. A wave of warmth enveloped Sarah. This wasn't just a fleeting moment of kindness, it was the foundation of something bigger. Each person had their own battles to face, but here they were, standing shoulder to shoulder, embracing one another's burdens. However, a new question lingered in Sarah's mind. Could they sustain this sense of belonging? What if their initial motivations faded when the fabric of their community was tested? As she shared a look with Mark, she understood that this was just the beginning of a long journey ahead. The laughter and chatter around them felt warm but fragile, teetering on the edge of reality. They needed to set a clear path to keep it alive. As the crowd rallied around new ideas, she raised her voice. "Let us take this spark and fan it into a flame. Together, we can truly make a difference." The cheers erupted again, filled with hope. Yet in the flicker of that moment, a haunting question rooted itself deep within Sarah. Was she ready to guide this movement, to bear the weight of this responsibility? Mark caught her gaze, a knowing look exchanged between them. As the energy surged forward, Sarah realized they were all in this together. But the journey would be anything but easy. The realization hung heavy in the air when Sarah spotted a troubled face among the crowd. What other secrets lay hidden beneath their smiles and laughter? What burdens had yet to be revealed? Could they face those together? The energy in the room began to settle, not in a bad way, but more like the calm after a joyful storm. Laughter turned into light conversation, each exchange laced with an air of newfound camaraderie. Sarah glanced around, taking it all in. People who had once been distant strangers now moved closer, sharing stories, laughter, and that vital sense of connection. But then, the soft murmur of voices dipped into an uneasy silence as Sarah's eyes landed on a woman sitting at the edge of the gathering. Her shoulders hunched, hands clasped tightly around her knees. There was a jagged sadness in her expression that pierced through the collective warmth of the room. As if sensing her gaze, the woman looked up. Their eyes met, and for a brief moment, Sarah felt like she understood the weight of her unspoken battles. Who was she? What had brought her here? "Excuse me, everyone," Sarah said, her voice cutting through the quiet. "I think we need to come together. We've shared ideas and plans for the future, but we can't forget about those who may be struggling right now." Heads began to nod, murmurs of agreement rippling through the crowd. Mark leaned forward, an encouraging smile on his face. He seemed to have sensed the shift, too. "Let us check in with each other," Sarah continued. "If anyone is feeling uneasy or has something heavy on their heart, we want you to know that you're not alone. We're here for one another." Mark's eyes darted toward the woman, who still hesitated, like a fragile flower reluctant to bloom. She took a deep breath before speaking up. I just came here hoping to find food," she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've got 2 kids at home, and it's been hard. I didn't know where else to turn." A wave of sympathy washed over the group. Sarah felt her heart thud in her chest as she witnessed the vulnerability raw and real. Lily, who had been playing nearby, suddenly appeared, holding a half-eaten apple. "You can have my snack," she exclaimed, her enthusiasm palpable. "I don't need it." The woman's expression shifted, a flicker of surprise giving way to something softer. "Oh, sweetie, thank you. That's so kind of you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. Tom stepped forward, casting a glance at Sarah before addressing the crowd. "If we're serious about building this community, we need to ensure no one feels alone. We can set up a system for folks who need help. It doesn't have to be only here and now. Let us keep this going." Cheers erupted again, but this time mixed with a palpable empathy that hung in the air. They were charged with the desire to be better, to connect on a deeper level and hold the hands of those in need. "Can we help with groceries? Maybe a meal delivery?" someone proposed. Voices bubbled up, exchanging ideas and suggestions, creating a map that could guide their emerging movement. The woman listened, her eyes glistening, a sense of hope beginning to take root. As the suggestions rolled in, Mark spoke up decisively. Why don't we also connect with local food banks? There's power in numbers. We can bring change, not just for us but for our entire community. Sarah felt a surge of pride. This was beyond just food, it was about building bridges. As they fleshed out plans, brainstorming every detail, her mind raced with possibilities. But through it all, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling of unease. Deep down, she wondered how sustainable their efforts could truly be. As the woman began to smile, the uncertainty wove through Sarah's thoughts, mingling with the joy they were conjuring together. With a lingering glance at the woman who had found strength to speak up, Sarah felt a flicker of determination igniting within her. It was more than just a community, it was a family. However, how long could they keep this fire burning? What new challenges awaited them as this movement began to unfold? Her heart raced with both excitement and fear, whispering a truth she wasn't ready to confront. Would their efforts wane, or could they harness this unity and push through the future together? The room buzzed with new energy, yet Sarah couldn't shake the worry clinging to her heart. The woman, what was her name? She wished she knew more about her, about the struggle she faced each day. As conversations continued to heat up around her, Sarah took a small step toward the woman, drawn to her like a moth to a flame. She needed to offer more than just good intentions. "Hi, I'm Sarah," she said softly, kneeling down to meet her gaze. "What's your name?" "Emily," the woman replied, her voice barely more than a whisper, but there was something about the way she spoke, a flicker of trust sparking in her eyes. "Emily, we want to help," Sarah said, feeling the warmth of hope percolate in the space between them. "Can we talk more about what you need?" Tears brimmed in Emily's eyes. I don't want to be a burden. It's just been so hard since my husband left. I'm trying to keep it together for the kids. I can't even provide them food sometimes." Those words felt like ice crashing against Sarah's heart. How often had she taken food for granted? "You're not a burden," Sarah said, her voice firm yet gentle. "I've been there too, feeling lost and overwhelmed. We all face tough times." Emily nodded, tears rolling down her cheeks. Sarah extended her hand, a silent offer of support. "Why don't we start with a meal or groceries? We can figure out a plan, and I promise, you won't have to do this alone." As the other attendees caught wind of their conversation, they began to gather around, drawn in by the palpable emotion. Mark stepped forward again, certainty wrapped around him. "Let us all chip in. How about we start a community food pantry here? We can do a monthly drive, and not just for Emily but for everyone who needs it." With murmurs of agreement echoing around the room, a new energy sparked. Voices filled the air with ideas: a neighborhood fridge, home-cooked meal exchanges, and even cooking classes for those who wanted to learn how to prepare healthier meals. Lily, still grinning with her half-eaten apple, raised her small hand. "Can I help? I can make cookies. Everyone loves cookies." Laughter broke through the earlier weight, the sound lifting the spirits of everyone present. Emily laughed too, a sound that felt like sunshine breaking through clouds. "I would love some cookies." Then it's settled. Mark beamed, the atmosphere shifting into something vibrant and living. But amidst this blooming hope, Sarah's heart stirred with unease. She thought of the logistics, the reality of sustaining their efforts. How will we keep this going? What if our initial fire fades? As if sensing her thoughts, Tom leaned closer. "We'll have to meet regularly, check in on each other, and make sure that what we're building keeps growing. It's not just about one moment or one need." With that, a plan began to take shape. Concrete ideas floated among them: weekly check-ins, community kitchen days, creating a flyer with resources for families in need. Yet fear tightened Sarah's chest as she listened. Would they be able to hold on to this momentum? What if someone didn't show up when it was needed most? As Emily began sharing stories of her children, their laughter sparking around her words, Sarah smiled, feeling the weight of the room lift. The connection was real, palpable, stronger than any individual burden, but then, a small voice cut through the noise again. What if we surprise Emily and her kids with a dinner? A whole community dinner, just for them. We can take turns cooking. Eyes widened and excitement flickered as the idea took hold. Sarah's pulse quickened, a burst of energy surging through her. But as reality settled back into her thoughts, she realized the bigger question lingered. How do they ensure every family like Emily's felt that same warmth and connection? As her heart drummed in her chest, Sarah took a deep breath, ready to dive into the unknown. The movement was just beginning, but its future felt as fragile as glass. Would they be able to foster this change, or would the inevitable struggles pull them apart? She looked around the room. Vulnerability etched in faces filled with hope. And Sarah knew, they couldn't turn back now. She was in this for the long haul, worries and all, wondering what bend in their journey awaited just around the corner. The excitement in the room bubbled over like a pot left too long on the stove. Ideas flew around, colorful and vibrant, as Sarah watched the energy shift. Every person present seemed to glow with purpose. Mark took control of the chatter, pulling everyone's focus together. All right, let's break it down. Who's in for planning this dinner? Hands shot up. It was infectious, this growing sense of community. Sarah felt lighter, moving with a sense of purpose as they organized into small groups. A flurry of discussions erupted: what to cook, who would bring what, and how to keep it a surprise from Emily and her kids. Lily was buzzing with enthusiasm. I'll make the cookie dough. You can bake them in the oven on the day of the dinner. Her little face shone with delight, and Sarah couldn't help but smile at her spirit. Perfect, and I can take care of decorations. Another voice chimed in. How wonderful to see everyone come together, contributing in their own way. They were forming something more than just a meal. It felt like building a safety net, but Sarah's mind drifted again. How could all their efforts ensure they would help not just Emily but others too? She wanted it to go beyond this single dinner, this fleeting moment of joy. Suddenly a shadow fell across her thoughts, pulling her back to the present. Emily stood nearby, hesitantly joining the fold. She bit her lip, uncertainty clinging to her. Emily, you okay? Sarah asked, stepping closer. Emily looked around, her expression shifting. I don't want you all to go through so much trouble for us. Her voice trembled slightly, vulnerability seeping through. It's not a burden at all, Sarah reassured her. This is what community means. We're here for you. A flicker of hope glinted in Emily's eyes. Really? Dance halls and dinners. I used to dream about things like this for my kids. I just didn't think. Sarah reached out, squeezing Emily's hand gently. You're not less deserving of joy. We want you to feel seen, to know you matter. Just like everyone else does. They shared a moment, deep and connective. The surrounding chatter faded as Sarah and Emily held each other's gaze. This was a turning point not just for Emily, but for everyone involved. But just as the conversation picked back up, an unexpected voice broke through the laughter. A girl, no older than 7, stood at the doorway, teary-eyed and trembling. She was clutching a faded backpack, her hair wavy and unkempt. Excuse me, she started hesitantly, glancing around the room. I'm really hungry. Do you have any food? I wanted to ask but I didn't. No. Heat rushed to Sarah's face. The weight of the moment pressed down hard. Here was an unmistakable reminder of the urgency that lay behind their plans. Everyone else momentarily froze, not sure how to respond. Emily's eyes widened as she took a step toward the girl, instinctively reaching out. Here, sweetie, we're actually planning a dinner for anyone who needs it. Please come in. The girl's eyes glistened with a mixture of hope and disbelief as she stepped further into the room. Sarah's heart pounded. This was the reality they aimed to face, the reality that was often shunned in silence. Hungry kids, families struggling, right there at their doorstep. How many more were out there just waiting for an invitation to the table? As Emily embraced the girl and pulled her into the circle, Sarah knew they were in deeper than they realized. The work had only just begun. What more could they uncover in this community? That night, as planning continued, a new kind of determination encircled them all. Sarah looked around, suddenly aware of the magnitude of what they were creating. But with that urgency came another echoing thought: how would they continue to meet the needs of those outside their little gathering? Her heart raced with anticipation, unsure of what the next chapter of this journey would bring. The girl, now standing at the center of their collective energy, looked around with wide, searching eyes. Emily knelt down, inviting her into a gentle embrace. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Ella," the girl replied, her voice a little shaky. "Well, Ella, you are welcome here," Emily said warmly. "We're planning a special dinner for families just like yours. Would you like to help us?" The rest of the group watched in awe as the connection sparkled between them. It was an unspoken understanding. Every person in the room had felt something shift. A vision was forming, one where compassion filled the gaps that society often overlooked. "Can we bake cookies, Miss Emily?" Ella ventured, her eyes lighting up. "Of course. You can be our special cookie helper." Sarah chimed in, her heart swelling at the way Ella's spirit began to shine through the worry etched on her small face. Excited whispers filled the air as suggestions flew. Someone proposed spaghetti, another suggested a salad. Mark, still leading with his usual enthusiasm, smiled at Sarah and said, "We need to make sure we have room for everyone. This isn't just about piecing together a dinner, but gathering every heart in this community." Just then, another small voice piped up from the back of the room. "What if we made warm sandwiches instead? My mom always says those fill you up best." "Great idea!" Mark exclaimed, rallying the group. "That way we can serve everyone who joins in." As the planning continued, Sarah felt her heart swell. It was more than just food being prepared, it was hope being cooked in the kitchen of this community's heart. Each person in the room brought a different flavor to the table, and together they were starting to stir up something miraculous. But soon, the chatter fizzled out. Sarah noticed several concerned faces glancing around. She felt the tightness in her chest deepen. This excitement came with a question they hadn't fully entertained. How will we reach those who need it most? Emily broke through the quiet. What about my neighbors? There are a few families on our block, they barely come outside anymore. They might not even know this dinner is happening. Yes. Someone added. What about everyone at the shelter down the road? The collective brainstorm began again, each idea more audacious than the last. Flyers, word of mouth, social media, every method was discussed, every possibility examined. Fueled by the adrenaline of their mission, Sarah felt an electricity in the air. Still, as plans unfolded, doubt swirled in the back of her mind. What if we don't do enough? She thought. What if some families still get missed? Before she could dwell on it too long, that same small voice from earlier broke through. Ella had returned from the corner of the room, a proud grin on her face as she held out a crumpled piece of paper. "I can help. I can draw the flyers for the dinner." Tears brimmed in Sarah's eyes at the innocence and encouragement radiating from the girl. In that instant, she realized the moment's power. The simple act of reaching out sparked something new. It was each of them, no matter how big or small, who would make a difference. As they worked into the night, laughter mixed with serious talk, determination fueling them all. But Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were only scratching the surface. The night wore on, and yet one thought flickered like a candle in her heart: what if making a change means facing something bigger than we imagined? With that question looming, she began to wonder what would happen when they uncovered the deeper struggles within their community. Would they have the strength to rise up together? The night was far from over, and Sarah felt the stirring of change under her skin. As they gathered up the last of their supplies, a feeling of hope swept through her. But in the quiet of her heart, a nagging worry remained: would that hope be enough? As dawn broke over suburban Ohio, the air was thick with anticipation. Sarah stood by the kitchen window, sunlight flooding in as she prepared for the community dinner. The sense of simmering sauce and warm bread danced around her, intensifying her hope and stirring memories of the struggles they had faced. "Mommy, are we ready yet?" Lily's voice broke through, her excitement infectious. Sarah turned, grinning at her daughter, who bounced on the balls of her feet, clutching a tray of freshly baked cookies. "Almost, sweet pea. Just a few last-minute touches." With each passing moment, neighbors began to filter in, bringing laughter, food delicacies, and a shared enthusiasm that enveloped the house like a warm hug. Sarah watched, heart swelling, as Mark arrived with a group of friends, arms laden with bags of vegetables and bread. "Hey, we're here to help," he called, his broad smile radiating a sense of friendship. The room quickly filled with sound. Conversations bubbled like frothy water in a boiling pot. But Sarah couldn't shake the earlier doubt about their capacity to truly make a lasting impact. As she buzzed about, prepping tables and arranging chairs, she pondered whether this gathering would really bridge the gaps in their community. The door swung open, and Emily entered with her 2 children, their faces tentative but filled with curiosity. "Are we too late?" Her voice trembled with uncertainty. "Not at all. You're just in time," Sarah replied, her smile warm and inviting. She denied the worry that gnawed at her insides. This was a collective effort, a shared celebration of unity and resilience. Before long, the long table was covered with plates of steaming food. It was a feast reminiscent of warm family gatherings, but enriched with flavors from different cultures and backgrounds. As the last of the guests took their seats, Sarah felt a boost of excitement ripple through the crowd. Tom stood up, raising his glass, whispering a soft prayer of gratitude, before inviting everyone to dig in. Cheers erupted, echoing around the room, as plates clattered and voices melded into a symphony of joy. Sarah marveled at the sight. Faces once shrouded in worry now illuminated with happiness, like light bulbs flicking on one by one. They were surrounded by a rich tapestry of stories, hearts intertwining in laughter, connecting them even deeper as they shared meals, anecdotes, and dreams. In the midst of the joy, Sarah spotted Ella's drawing taped to the wall, a handmade flyer encapsulating the essence of their community dinner, bright drawings of families holding hands beneath a sun. It made her heart race. They weren't just serving food, they were building relationships, instilling belief in better days ahead. Halfway through dinner, Emily stood up, her voice slightly shaky yet powerful. "Can I say something?" Silence washed over the room, the focus shifting toward her as all eyes turned. "I just want to thank everyone. This means so much to my kids and me." She paused, swallowed hard, gathering courage. "It's not just the food. It's knowing that we're not alone. Thank you for listening and for wanting to help." Tears glistened in the corners of several eyes as murmurs of "here, here," and "yes" filled the air. Sarah felt the collective strength in the room. This wasn't just a meal, it was a beacon of hope, lighting the path toward a collaborative future brimming with kindness. As conversation picked up again after Emily's heartfelt words, Sarah stole a glance at Mark. His eyes were filled with determination. "We need to do this more often. Not just for one night, but every month. Let us keep this energy alive," he declared. Birds chirped outside as if in agreement with the sentiments echoing in the room. A spontaneous wave of support rolled through the attendees, one by one voicing affirmations, cooking classes, food drives, sharing resources, and creating a community mentoring program. Each idea lit a spark, banding them closer like threads weaving into a tapestry. "And next time we can invite more families," Lily squealed, beaming brightly, uninhibited by the world's heaviness. "All the kids like cookies." People laughed, and energy swelled as they realized the impact could ripple far beyond the dinner they shared that night. Sarah felt renewed vigor pulse through their hearts. Maybe this was the change they needed, not just for themselves, but to anchor a future where no one would feel like they were standing alone. Later that evening, as the last of the guests filtered out, Sarah stared at the remnants of the feast, leftover dishes, empty plates scattered across the tables, and tired but satisfied faces still glowing. She felt a powerful sense of contentment. Lily yawned, her small head resting against Sarah's shoulder. It was time to head home. "Mommy, we should do it again." "Yes, Lily, we will. This is just the beginning." As she walked out, hand in hand with her daughter, she sensed a shift, a thicker bond among neighbors, a shared commitment to not just speak of change but to carry it as a daily practice. And in that moment, she understood, change didn't come from grand gestures. It was fanned into existence through small acts of love, like dandelions sprouting in the cracks of pavement. The heart of this community had begun to bloom. Now they stood at the threshold of a new chapter, armed with hope, resilience, and unwavering compassion. But the real question still lingered: would they continue to nurture this spirit of unity when life threw its inevitable hurdles? It was a journey ahead, but this time, they wouldn't face it alone. In the quiet of the night, Sarah paused and looked back at the warm glow spilling from the community center. Hope was alive, and she felt it coursing through her veins, ushering them forward together, all ready to face whatever came next. And now, don't wait not even one more second to help keep this journey alive. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Every like counts in making these stories grow. Comment your thoughts and feelings about this heartwarming ending. It means the world to see your reactions. And share instantly this journey with at least 5 friends who need to feel this sense of community transformation, because true fans understand that every action creates ripples of change.